there's nothing like riding a big twin flat, riding down the road and those heads spill out underneath the tank. It's not a 45 sound, it's, you know, it's an 80-inch. It's just like no other. Flats and pans, they're all good, but there's something about the way this feels when you're going down the road. Fat tires are wobbling, front end is springing, you know, it's just something about that sound and that feel of that big twin side valve. I'm telling you, it's unbelievable. Hey, it's Scott, McCrorie, Long Beach, California. Just out here today showing the big twin side valve, 1939 Harley-Davidson. It's kind of a pain in the ass, actually. It's been a lot of work, it's been a lot of process, but it sits in a 1948 wishbone, bone stock wishbone frame, Hollywood bars. You know, this bike kind of came to me. It was a process of a lot of different bikes, and you know, from little sporty choppers to shovel chops and all of those. You know, and seeing everything that was going on in the market and shiny tanks and, you know, all this kind of stuff. I kind of wanted to get something that was old school but still new school. The inspiration for this bike was that 1950s outlaw flat track style guy. You know, bits and bobs that would have come from, you know, from 39. It's a 39, but it would have been done in the 50s. And like I said, it would not so it was your dad's bike, you know, more of that Brando-ish feel to it, if you will. Again, you know, there's a lot of custom parts. The motor came from Long Beach Memorial Stadium swap. I bought the motor trans, bought a shovel in this 48 wishbone frame, and stripped it, sold everything, kept the frame. From there, you know, handlebars from Victorville, you know, meeting guys at all the shops and chops, all the swap meets and stuff. You know, the headlight came out of France. It was on a beautiful old knuckle that was in actually Greasy Culture magazine. You know, I liked the feel of that real big 500 style tire on it, so it gives it that real stout look. Next upgrade will be 18s on it. There's 16s on both. A couple custom parts, you know, Bates seats, BT&E, tail lights, 70s repop exhaust. Wheel cover came from Kevin Teach Boss out of the Midwest. Smokey did a lot of the motor work here. Legendary guy, did all 20s and 30s Indians, race Harleys, things like that. He did all the motor and trans. You know, all of us at Pacific Coast, we put a lot of it together, built it. It was a labor of love. Like I said, every single piece was hand-picked, and all for a reason. And like I said, when I got it accomplished, it all came back to me, and it's exactly what I was looking for. Well, a couple things we got here is Kevin Teach, Boss out of the Midwest. A teacher is a stainless spun wheel cover. You know, sits on 500 Firestone repops, and then, you know, a couple of special points on this is all the rear casting numbers on that 48 wishbone are bones perfect. Every casting number is beautiful. It's never been touched, never been unmolested. For that real bobber effect, you know, what I was looking for is like what they did back in the old days. They pulled the old pin out. It's a 41 knuckle fender OEM, and we pulled the pins out. Old hand cast BT&E tail light, Bates P-pad, you know, it's and seat as well. A couple other things, an old repop from the 70s exhaust, you know, correct 39, smooth toolbox, you know. And like I said, you know, I left the old brackets and everything on. Just looks like some guy did it in his garage, you know, back in the old days, you know, when he was making those old flat tracks, the old hot rods and stuff. Yeah, motor and trans. Wow, lots of work there. Smokey did the motor on this. It's a 1939 UL, you know, big twin side valve. Again, it's been completely gone through from head to toe. The bike, actually, the motor in this bike story it's been in Easy Riders twice, as choppers and everything else, you know, through the periods. But again, it's completely gone through, runs, you know, 75, 80, not a problem. Transmission, again, Smokey did the motor and trans and did the trans work on it, and everything has been completely gone through, every nut, bolt, everything. Again, very early box. Kind of a neat little person's red kicker. I was pretty excited when I found that. You know, like I said, they're pretty challenging. Did an orbital polish across the top of the, you know, on the boxes, not to take too much off, you know, so you don't lose that old hand cast feel to it. Front end, my favorite part, probably the most challenging to find as well. So it goes like this. Up at the Dave Mann Show, I've been looking for a Springer front and wanted, you know, that old early style, original, you know, options were lots of things, but original was the only thing I really wanted. Found a guy through a guy through a guy, like the story goes, and I think you go to Victorville, past Apple Valley, and then drive another hour or two, and I ended up at this big warehouse and walked in, and I just about fell over. I mean, it was like everything. It was like the mother lode. It was what we all talk about and what we all dream about in this business, is finding that load of parts. You know, it's like an eBay dream or something. But I picked up the original 1939 inline Hollywood bars, extremely rare. You know, in 1946, 47, they became more prevalent, but these are the early inline ones. Put new internals in them. The front end is all bone stock. We kind of, with the help of Slim and all of us, you know, this bike was built by a lot of friends, and so on the front end, we stripped the front end, and by the time I got to the original brazing of it, they used to hot sweat braze everything. It was too pretty to cover up, so I left what left of the primer and what was left of the paint. Matte cleared everything. Slim assured me that it would hold. Again, stripped everything back off the rockers. It's beautiful. There was no leg swelling. They made things back 70 years ago. You know, it was good. The ride control, I came out of Montreal with every spacer, every washer, every nut bolt, original Harley ride control. The headlight, another one of those special pieces, like I said, because there's a key pieces to make the bike have that feel that I was after, that, you know, that inspired me, that it was just that dream in my head that, you know, I kept thinking about and lost sleep and lost my mind some of the time. But it was a 1930 Luxor headlight. It was off a 1930s French motorcycle. If it looks familiar, it's Crime Scene Choppers. They actually knocked it off and casted it a touch bigger, but that's where they were inspired from. Again, it was ultra rare and kind of that defining piece, because I knew I had it, I saw it. You know, wanted the original one and tracked one down. Yeah, the carburetor is an M51 linkered. It's actually a very early one. It's the 4-line linkered. Because of the war sediment and all that, they changed and shortened up the names, and later became a 3-line and a 2-line linkered. So it's actually 1939 correct to the Motor Trans. Tanks are 41 knuckle tanks. I know, don't say it, I know. Everybody says, why did you chop them? Well, because I paid for them, that's why. But we took a set of 41, I say we, Slim from Slim's Fab out at Riverside, and he was apprehensive this time about chopping these tanks, because normally when he chops things, he doesn't mind chopping it, but these were like originals. But we took 2 3/4 inch out of them, left all the original bracketing so I could put back the original spoons and part of the hardware on them. Again, filled in the dash and filled in where the pogo is and cleaned it all in. And like I said, when we took them about 2 3/4 inch in, it gives it a really clean look. It would be something like they would even chop back in the day, back in the 50s, and that was kind of what I was really after. Also underneath, don't tell anybody, shh, there's a stash. Slim made a special stash with a special key to, of course, put my registration in. Some of the details I tried to pay attention to was like use all the original brass housings, early clutch levers, antique motorcycle club hand cast pins, original you know, rearview mirror. You know, the details were really important, and trying to find them and add them to as I go. Also, if you notice here, it's all of the original cloth wires. I used all cloth wiring harness on it. You know, just sometimes those little details are, you know, and again, some things still need to be updated, but you know, it's a continual work in progress. But tried to use, you know, all the OEM parts as I could.